In this episode, I award Oda the Thomas Hobbes badge for the provocative insight into the brutal and destructive nature of man as the fighting continues.
Welcome to the journey. Welcome to the crew. We think we're pretty funny, and we hope that you will too. This is the opening song to season 2. It's where the journey really starts because we've made it out of East Blue. We've got our snacks and we've got our friends. Now it's time to discuss the anime that never ends. Yeah! Start the show!
Hello, fellow adventurers of the Grand Line! Welcome to episode 45 of King of the What Now! A special, longer episode because we watched more anime episodes. What are we? We're a podcast. We make reference jokes, but then we occasionally talk about One Piece, the anime. I'm your host, Joel, and I'm the one who will surpass you!
I'm the co-host. I am Curtis. I am a Baroque's Work member, just trying to pass as a normal citizen while wearing my Baroque's Work team jacket.
And I am Kat. I'm the ghost on the podcast, and I'm so excited we finally got to the end of the Luffy Crocodile fight. It was so good. Which episodes did we watch?
We just finished watching, like I said, 5 episodes of the anime. We finished episodes 122, 123, 124, 125, 126. For those watching at home, that starts with Luffy starting round 2 with Crocodile. He's got the barrel. His hands have been wetted. And it ends with Luffy defeating Crocodile, possibly in another location, possibly during a round 3. But in order to understand why there might be 2 more fights, we'll have to summarize first.
I was just going to say it also ends with it raining on Alabasta, so it starts with wetness and ends with wetness.
Yes, absolutely. There's just water everywhere.
And not a drop to drink. But I got lots of water for you to drink in this summary of the episodes that we watched.
Just make sure it's a short walk there to get there.
It will be a brief walk.
Yes.
All right. So we started off with the end of the second fight between Crocodile and Luffy, where Luffy had figured out that if he puts water on himself, he can touch Crocodile. But then, Crocodile can still absorb that water. There's a brief bit where Luffy drank all of the water he had so that he didn't have to worry about the barrel anymore.
Well, hold on a second. To transform into the legendary Water Luffy.
Yes.
Yeah, the name of the episode was something like Water Luffy versus Sand Gator, which was fantastic.
Yes, so he was basically a big water balloon then. And then all the water got drained out of him by Crocodile. He was left dried up on the ground. Surely he was dead, and then water fell from the sky because he had spit some straight up earlier, and it came back and hit him, rehydrated him, and he was alive. Then Crocodile went to catch up with
Nico Robin.
Yes, thank you. Robin and King Cobra, who had left previously to go find the poneglyph. They all end up at the tomb, where there were secret stairs that they used to go into the poneglyph.
Can you describe the poneglyph really quick?
The poneglyph is a large cube with writing on it.
This was also the first genuine smile we saw from Robin and Crocodile. Robin upon seeing the poneglyph, Crocodile upon seeing the secret stairs.
There's a dispute between Crocodile and Robin because Robin says that there is no information about Pluton on the poneglyph, and Crocodile believes that she is trying to trick him, so he's just going to kill her.
I'm breaking up with you. You're not exciting as you once were. I never loved you in the first place.
So he stabs her through the heart. She's definitely dead. Probably won't come back again. And around... Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about everybody else. There's everybody else doing other stuff.
They were doing some stuff. What did they do?
Yeah, so the rest of the crew is trying to stop the bomb that is going to be dropped into the square, killing the rebel army and the city guard and anyone else in the vicinity. They're running around the city trying to find it. And then Vivi remembers that there's a location near the town square where they could station the cannon. It's in the clock tower where she used to hang out when she was a kid. So they go to the clock tower. They use a combo attack that starts with a crotch shot to Usopp to get Vivi up to the top of the clock tower.
The Croc Tower?
Croc
That's what it was going to be renamed if Crocodile had taken over the country.
Yes. Well, I mean, it would have been blown up, but yes. He'd rebuild it as the Croc Tower. So she gets up there, takes out the 2 Works members that are up there, who are supposed to be manning the cannon. They had lit the fuse. She puts the fuse out, only to find out that the bomb was on a timer, and it's big enough that even if it doesn't get launched from the cannon, it's still going to kill everyone in the square. They can't figure out what they're going to do, and then Pell shows up, and he sacrifices himself. He flies the bomb up into the sky, and it blows up, and he dies with it, but he saves everybody else.
It's a very emotional scene.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that.
That gets us through episode 125. Luffy, through all of this, has been, he went to the tomb, he took a short nap.
He decided that now is the best time to kind of restore his energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wakes up, looks to the left, sees the stairs, and says, "That looks like a croco hole."
Yeah, it looks crockish to me.
That was the English translation.
Oh, okay.
And then, so he goes down the stairs. He fights Crocodile, this time using his own blood as the liquid that will let him hit Crocodile. Through a series of attacks and, back and forth, he outsmarts Crocodile and defeats him, and then hits him so hard that he goes flying up through the ceiling, which is the ground of, the town up above. And he flies over, lands in the middle of the battle, and then it rains on Alabasta, and the fighting stops, and everything's okay now.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just a real quick shout out. I love the symbolism there of it being Luffy's blood that defeats Crocodile. It really ties into the theme of how the common people are the ones who are fighting to protect this country.
Do you want to tell us about how 4Kids ruined that scene?
Okay, so we've already talked about 4Kids before. Sanji's famous cigarette has been turned into a lollipop. Smoker does not smoke cigars. Instead, it's just smoke that comes out of their mouth. Helmeppo's gun had been transformed into a metal detector that he was going to whack Kobe with. Robin's outfit in Alabasta had been created to be more modest. It was, less breasts on display. Her stomach wasn't on display.
Less breasts.
She has 4 or 5 that's showing right now. They narrowed it down to 1. It was really weird.
She can make body parts bloom from anywhere. That's all I'm saying.
It's been confirmed, word of God, she can make any body part. But anyways, they also made the more voluptuous members, the females of the show, less so in their edits. But blood is not okay. As we know, people don't bleed in 4Kids, because this is a jolly adventure of pirates where a bomb's going to kill 1 million people and you can't have blood. So, Luffy declares, when I'm in closed spaces like this, I sweat a lot, and it's my sweat that's going to allow me to defeat you. Because he didn't get sweaty in those last 2 fights with Crocodile at all.
Okay. So I did make a comment that I was like, his sweat probably should have helped at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That's an unnecessary,
Well, and at that point, just change it to any bodily fluid, right? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to say that 4Kids is dumb.
Yeah.
But I made it gross.
Well, we already made the joke about spitting on Crocodile. Or, I'm sorry, I will take credit for that. I wanted the citizens of Alabasta to spit on him to cancel out
I still
his
think
hand
that
power.
would have been a great way to end the fight. Everybody in a circle. It's that people of Earth give me your energy moment, but instead of energy, they're giving their spit and disdain.
I also have 2 more quick little kind of trivia notes before we move on to grander discussions. This has been confirmed by word of God at some point, by word of Oda, that the hardest scene for him to draw was the scene where Vivi was trying to get everyone to stop fighting using only her voice. She was trying to shout, "Please stop fighting," from on top of the clock tower, but her voice couldn't reach things. He said that at a certain point, he didn't say it yesterday, so it's possible that maybe there's been a scene he's written since that was more emotional for him, but at the time, that was definitely the most emotional scene for him.
So it wasn't difficult technically. It was difficult emotionally.
Yes.
I was going to ask that same
I
question.
apologize. Yeah, which is the hardest for you to draw because you are empathizing with the characters.
I would love to be able to ask him, like, revisit that question. Do you have a new scene that was even harder?
Yeah, just at the very end of the series, I'd love him to rank kind of his top 3 or something. Kind of like what we do on this podcast.
More trivia?
Yeah, more trivia. I should have brought this up in the last episode, but I kind of forgot. I told myself when we started Alabasta, like, oh, when we get to the fighting, be sure to tell this story. And then we got to the exact episode and out my mind. The fight with Zoro and Mr. One, as far as I remember, was the first full episode of One Piece that I ever saw in its entirety. I distinctly remember, basically people coming over, and as they were leaving, I'm like, oh, One Piece is on, and I just remember the him finding a sword and just being so baffled by the mystery of it all, and I didn't quite understand the magic. It's not magic, but kind of the anime logic that existed in One Piece, and then I was hooked. I was a fan.
Is that the same time when, like, people were leaving and you didn't want to say goodbye to them because you wanted to see the end of the episode, or is that a different anime?
Yeah, that was this one. I was in a hurry to get people out of the house because I wanted to watch it. I tried to gloss over that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can cut it out if you want. I just thought people might want to know how in love with this series you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people have a right to know.
The truth come out. Joel's hyper-focused on his interests.
So really quick, I wrote something down in my notes here that's given me a giggle. Curtis mentioned Luffy had a big old barrel of water during his second round with Crocodile, and what I wrote down was, please, sir, this is my emotional support barrel. I had a good giggle from that. Crocodile punches it and it goes flying, and Luffy goes, no, my barrel!
Well, and in the first episode of the series, he was in a barrel. That's how Kobe found him, so maybe that was his emotional support barrel.
It's the same barrel, and he destroyed the barrel to defeat Crocodile. He
sacrificed it.
Yeah.
Poor Luffy.
But that would be an evolution for Luffy. He has now evolved past the need to have emotional support. He can rely on his own power. Someone else we know has also evolved recently in these episodes. Tashigi has also received quite the level up moment, I guess. Not necessarily in physical power terms, but
right, not the same as Zoro's level up moment where he learned to hear the rhythm of things.
Exactly, or Nami's level up moment where she summoned literal storm clouds. But in kind of a more emotional or intellectual sense, she shows up in these episodes and she briefly tries to get in the way of Robin, and we found out that's not really a good thing to do because she'll break your legs. Robin is just that ruthless. And at one point, Tashigi actually utters the phrase, "To hell with Marine headquarters." Now, Curtis, you do not have the gift of foreknowledge when it comes to what's going to happen later, so how did you interpret that scene? How'd you like it?
I think it's something that Smoker has been kind of directing her towards. The impression that I get of Smoker is that he is a Marine that doesn't respect his superiors, right?
A bit, yeah.
That he is a Marine and he believes in his mission, but he doesn't necessarily think that they are fulfilling the what's the word I want?
Spirit?
Yeah. He believes that Marine Headquarters is not fulfilling the spirit of their mission, right?
Absolutely.
And I think he's been trying to lead Tashigi to that same point of view. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is her kind of starting to turn that way.
Sure. So step 1 is realize the truth about Marines. Step 2 is question mark, question mark, question mark. And step 3 is fix the Marines. Smoker started out at 2. He's at question mark, question mark, question mark. But now Tashigi has finally gone from 1 to 2.
Yes.
Okay. Catherine, do you have anything to say about Tashigi?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tashigi is laying there defeated by Robin. There was actually a scene where her glasses were broken, which in the past has been a visual metaphor for defeat. But I think here they were trying to use it as like her mind was breaking a little bit from what was happening. And then right after that scene, we see her alive. So we found out very quickly she wasn't dead. And Crocodile walks up to her and he says, "Justice is only for the people who take it. Why don't you go back to your base and talk about justice until you're ready to fight for it?" And then the very next person she meets is Luffy, who says, "Show me where Crocodile is," because he is actually fighting for justice. He's not just talking a big game about it. And I thought that was a very helpful moment for her development.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of saw the glasses as the metaphor for she doesn't need them anymore. I mean, she still needs them, but she was drawn without them, or it was shown breaking because she has now seen, she can see clearly on her own rather than relying on someone else telling her that, well, the Marines are just because we said so.
That's clever. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And her helping Luffy was a pretty good scene. And also, she had to decide which was more important, capturing Luffy or saving people. And she was like, oh, saving people is what Marines should do. And yeah, it is, actually.
Yeah, she kind of finally realized what follow the sense of justice in your heart means.
He was the wise old man all along. I was telling you.
And then after that, the Marines are no longer the Straw Hats' foe here
in this arc,
Alabasta.
yes.
And so the next time that one of the Straw Hats, Zoro, encounters the Marines, he gets ready to fight them, and instead of fighting, they say, oh, are you lost? You're looking for the town center. It's that way. Go, Zoro, quickly!
Like you would a small child.
Yes.
Okay.
I like how they specifically say, oh, that's right, you're known for not having a sense of directions, you idiot.
Tashigi also had a moment with Robin where one of Tashigi's subordinates went, do you know who that is? That's Nico Robin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we got a little bit more details about Robin, and she has officially dropped the Miss All Sunday title. She is now talking as Robin. She's acting in a slightly different role. And we found out that she is very interested in that poneglyph that we found out about in the last episode. And, she's pretty OP, like you commented, Curtis. She took out, 15 Marines all at once, and
30,
was able to take out Tashigi in a moment, and, oh man, she's a powerful, powerful woman. We also found out that she sank 6 warships at the age of 8, and I am very curious if that got any gears clicking in your head.
Before we talk about that,
Turn.
The way that we got this information was through a weird monologue by a random Marine that was with
Tashigi.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the captain of exposition.
Yes.
He's been promoted recently. Well, and he was the one who was told by Smoker to look up the information, and this is, I guess, the best way Oda had to throw these tidbits at us.
But I was like, you're in the middle of the fight. Let's stop everything and talk for 3 minutes about Robin's past. And then Robin politely waits. And then once he is finished, she said, shut up!
Well, and it's interesting, too, because Cobra knew who she was before the Marines did, and I don't know if that's because these are all very young Marines and he's old, or what, but she was in the news 20 years ago, so she's 28 or so.
Yes. Well, and also Cobra knew that she was Nico Robin because Crocodile called her that.
But he knew who Nico Robin was.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, and these Marines did not, yeah.
As far as what happened and how she sank the ships.
She made hands grow out of them, obviously.
If she had her powers by then, yeah. Who knows? I guess, I have 2 theories. One, she had just gotten her devil fruit power, and accidentally sunk the ships, leading her on the path she's on now. Mm-hmm. Because, that happened, and everyone just sees her as a threat now. The second one is that something happened and she somehow got framed for it. I don't think that she intentionally sunk.
You think it was either an accident or she was being blamed when she didn't do anything?
Yeah.
Okay, what makes you think that? Is it the foreknowledge that she joins the crew, so she has to be a good person, or is it something else about her character?
I think it's that, and that she's also shown herself to be a person of good character in general. So one, she's helped Luffy on a couple occasions. She didn't really seem that interested in Crocodile's plan. She was interested insofar as they had a deal, right? Mm-hmm. And my assumption is that if she had not gone along with it, that her life would have been on the line, because Crocodile wanted something and she was the only person who could get it for him. I think that her only interest was fulfilling her part of the deal so she could get out of underneath Crocodile. And I don't know if there was like some reward for her or not, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, and you mentioned an interesting point that she was the only one who could do what Crocodile wanted, which was read the poneglyph. We found out in these episodes through her talking to King Cobra that she is the only person alive who has this ability. The poneglyph is in a language that for some reason just isn't spoken or isn't written anymore.
Interesting world building. And again, we have to go to our novice to ask him what's up with that.
I mean, it's a super old language.
Okay.
So it's like the language of some ancient civilization.
Okay.
It has a very, like, the poneglyph has that same feel as, like, in, I don't know, like in different other, it's like in Zelda or something like that. Whenever you see an ancient civilization stuff, it's always like this weird clean cut and like,
yes,
super.
How did they cut this perfect cube and then write things on it?
Yeah, exactly. And my assumption is that it's like nobody uses the language anymore because whatever civilization used it died out, and they don't have a means of translating it.
Okay.
Like, they don't have like a Rosetta Stone for this ancient language, so they don't have any way. Like, it's just no one knows.
Interesting. Okay. But we also know that it's the Kingdom of Alabasta's job, the king specifically, to protect the poneglyph. But if no one can read it, like, what's really the point? And then also, how do they have this thing from a civilization that no longer exists? Wouldn't that mean that came from their ancestors?
I mean, it could be their ancestors, yeah. I mean, you can have, like, the civilization could end, and you could still give stuff to, like, whatever comes after you, right?
Okay.
It's like a secret organization or something it's like, you know, your civilization's burning, but you're trying to hide something. You give it to somebody else who's going to still be around, or like maybe a couple, like the remnants of that civilization, like kept it hidden and then entrusted it to them.
Do you think there is important information on it, though, that, like, they wanted the kings to protect it because someday somebody might need that info?
That's a possibility. I guess, yeah, because otherwise then you just destroy it, right?
Well, and I guess it was implied that the location of Pluton might have been on it. Like, Robin might have been lying to Crocodile, or he might have just been crazy.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I guess they didn't destroy it, so they must have thought that someone might need it eventually.
My other question about the poneglyphs is, what do you think the poneglyph is made of? Because it looked like sea prism stone to me. Like, it was that same dark blue color we've seen before.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just assumed it was some fancy rock. I don't know. I didn't put too much thought into it.
That's fair. I literally pulled this question out of my butt right this second, so...
I do have two really quick questions to consider about the poneglyphs before we move on, or before I'll have said everything that I wanted to say. How old do you think the poneglyphs are? The only piece of information we have in terms of age and era and whatever is that Alabasta is 4,000 years old, as they repeated many, many times about 6 episodes back. So do you think that it is more than 4,000, less than 4,000?
I could see it being, like, I guess less, coming from some earlier era of Alabasta.
Okay.
So, like, they say, you know, Alabasta's 4,000 years old, but the current line of kings is much, much younger than that.
Yeah, Cobra was only the 12th king, yeah.
Yeah, so they've obviously had changes in government over time. So my assumption is that it comes from some earlier history in Alabasta.
Okay. And then, my other question, and this is a complete butt pull, so I don't expect you to actually have a logical answer, but in your gut, how many poneglyphs do you think there are in the world? Like, do you think there's 4? Do you think there's as many as 4 tens, or do you think there's literal thousands? Or one for every country?
I was going to say, how many countries are there in One Piece? Maybe each king was given a piece of the puzzle.
I don't know, you guys just threw a lot of possibilities at me.
Okay, right. How about this? How many poneglyphs do you think there are?
I mean, my assumption was that...
What I meant to ask was not exactly how many there are, but if you had to pick a range, is there, 10 or so? Is there 100 or so? Or are there 1,000 or so?
I mean, going into these episodes, my assumption was there was 1.
Okay.
And it told the location of Pluton in Alabasta.
All right.
So, I mean, there could be more. I think it's interesting that they called it, like... I'm curious if the poneglyph represents the cube, or if it's just talking about the wall of text on the cube.
Mm-hmm.
And if it, like, because I guess I could see it being poneglyphs are the writing, right?
Okay.
Like, kind of like hieroglyphs.
Mm-hmm.
And that when they said, where is the poneglyph? It's just they're talking about where is the, like,
Where
the
is it written
specific
down?
one that I'm looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like we saw, you know what? I guess there are at least two, because we saw the other one that Zoro found.
Yes.
I think that was also a cube shape, now that I think about it.
It was a cube shape, and we need to talk about that in a second.
Okay. I did notice on our cube, it only had writing on the one side, which I thought was interesting. Because, like, why wouldn't you use all the sides of the cube?
I mean, they only had, whoever was writing it only had so much information. Maybe they didn't have to continue on page 2 with it. But, the cube that Zoro and Luffy and I think Chopper was in that scene found, that was a filler episode.
Oh, that's
which is
right.
Interesting because there are some people who believe that there's a second poneglyph in Alabasta, possibly as a potential. And the only evidence we have of that is that filler episode. But the poneglyph is, again, one of those things on the bingo sheet, things that are going to come back for the end of the series. So it's interesting that they would include something that could be so important in a filler episode. It'd be like having a filler episode where they stumble upon Pluton itself. That would be really weird.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't necessarily have any comments, and I don't really expect you to have any theories, because that episode, again, was filler. So It's in this kind of weird halfway in reality, halfway out of reality situation.
If we are done with the poneglyphs, it kind of sounded like those were your final thoughts. Can
Yes.
we talk about the Luffy Crocodile fight?
Yes.
Fights.
That's true. I was more hung up on the last one.
Yes.
But, because the other one was interesting. I thought it was, you could see, like, the progression in Luffy's fighting style, specific, like, him thinking about it more.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, like, used a couple trick attacks and, like, feints and that were not normal for what we've seen of Luffy so far.
Yes.
So, like, he had one where he kept using Gum Pistol,
Mm-hmm.
but when he used it one time, rather than actually using the pistol, he followed up with, like a
Kick or
shoulder
something.
hit or
Mhm.
something, yeah. That one ended, he got dried out. The fight between the third fight,
Yes.
the third and final fight between him and Crocodile in the Alabasta saga, assuming that Crocodile never comes back ever again, is, so Luffy so you can see him being a lot more careful
Mhm.
throughout the fight. He's dodging a lot more. He's not, like, going in headstrong into the
Mhm.
fight. And it's just, I don't know, it's a lot more intense. And you can see that Crocodile struggling more. When he finally breaks the claw off of Crocodile's arm is, like, a very strong turning point of, like, I mean, it was already serious for Crocodile. And then that moment was like, this is a force to be reckoned with.
This whole time, all 5 of these episodes, you can kind of see Crocodile slowly losing his mind, but not even that slowly. Like, it did not take much to push him over the edge, and it kind of made me wonder if he was a little crazy this whole time.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, he has so much disdain for weaklings that this constant pushback against his plan is just, he can't handle it.
Well, that's what I was going to say is Crocodile's a man who's so strong and so feared by those who know to fear him and so loved by those who have been tricked by his act. If one thing goes wrong, he finds a way to fix it. He goes, this will not happen again. Everyone goes, absolutely not, yes sir. Luffy's the one thing that he's like, I'm just going to fix this one mistake. Oh, there's a second one. We're going to fix that. Guys, I only have one trick, and that's getting angry when someone fails me the first time. What do I do when someone fails me this many times?
Mm-hmm. And I think he's not used to failure.
No, not at all.
So to meet somebody who just through sheer determination is
winning.
Yes, would frustrate him greatly.
Yeah, by the end of that third fight, his eyes are all bloodshot and his face is kind of contorted in this expression of, what is happening?
I don't remember if I made this joke on a podcast episode or if it was one of our cold opens or something, but when we were doing the Dawn Krieg fight Also Arlong, a lot of Luffy villains are like this, but I made the joke about how it goes from, oh, this is just a punk that I can blow away with like one punch or one shot or whatever, to, okay, he's starting to annoy me, to, please stop punching me. And Crocodile had that progression in these episodes, like, he doesn't know how to hurt me, oh god, I can't turn into sand.
And his please stop punching me moment was so good.
Yes.
I know, so my favorite part of the whole fight was like the last
Gomu Gomu no! Storm!
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And there's the, so he had pushed Crocodile up to the ceiling, and so he launches himself up and prepares his attack, and Crocodile shoots attack down at him, and he just like punches through it, and it just shatters into sand, and then the music in there's great. It's like this weird, like, classical operatic one. I know we're going to talk about it more later. And it's a very great, intense moment.
Really quick, the name of that music is For the New World Symphony, 4th Movement. It is my favorite piece of classical music that has ever existed. I love it.
Oh, is it? So is that not, like, original for this?
No.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Because it sounded like, when it started off, I was like, this isn't One Piece music.
Yeah.
And then as it got going, I was like, this actually is kind of vaguely One Piece music.
There's another pretty famous version of that song called Wizard's Last Ride, where they take the symphony and then they play like rock music over the top of it. So I highly recommend looking that up if you like the music.
It is a great climax. I don't necessarily feel that this is spoilers, even though it technically is. Curtis, avert your ears!
Or don't.
Okay.
Yeah, please don't. I don't feel bad spoiling this. The climax to the Alabasta arc and Saga, it serves as both, is kind of one of the big moments. The next arc, in my opinion, does not necessarily have that amount of punch behind it. And I'm not saying that that's a failing on Oda's part. It's just stories need kind of rising action, falling action, and this is one of the most memorable fights. And I remember catching up on the series when it was first coming out, and it wasn't as far as it is now, obviously. And I just remember a bunch of people being like, when's Luffy going to bring back Gum Gum Storm? When's he going to defeat this bad guy with this attack? Because that's clearly his most powerful attack. And then there's debates about, well, isn't it just Gatling? No, it's not, because he has to launch himself. Yeah.
I was going to say, it just seemed like a more powerful version of Gatling.
Because he launched himself.
I guess. I didn't realize that was the distinction.
See?
I just thought, he must just be punching harder and faster than Gatling.
Yeah, there's debate as to the distinction, and I will spoil A, it's the launching, but then B, he also puts his heart into the punches, which, as you know, is very easily analyzed in a shonen battle anime.
There were a lot of really good quotes from Crocodile that kind of illustrate who he is as a person, but I think the best one was during this final fight, where he says to Luffy, "Loyalty is only for idiots and weaklings."
I mean, you'll notice that they weren't able to, the Straw Hats weren't able to stop the cannon from being fired until they started working as a team, and they did the combo attack that Curtis had already mentioned. And we already had that quote from Arlong Park with Luffy with, I can't cook, I can't lie, I can't cut, I can't steal, or I can't navigate, I think is what he says, but I can fight. And so, Crocodile, I've made this joke, and I'll continue making this joke. Who hurt you? Because he doesn't believe in trusting anyone. When he stabs Rob, he's like, I never trusted you from the start. Well, maybe if you had.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because he says in the English, I never trusted you, and in the Japanese, he says, I never trusted anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something happened to Crocodile that made him think that relying on other people was a good way for your plans to fail, and he has never let go of that lesson. I'd be curious if it has something to do with why he's missing a hand, honestly.
And the scar across his face. I was about to say my understanding of basic psychology, I haven't studied it in depth, but, it seems like he's projecting on other people, you're failing because you're weak, so maybe at some point he was weak. And he said something about, the more you adventure out into the sea, the smaller you become by comparison, or like the worse, the harder you have to fight to protect your dreams, so why even set sail? Shut up. Those are the words of a loser. Those are the words of a quitter.
Well, like I said, I don't think earlier in this episode, I think I said it off mic, but his dreams are really so small. He wants to be king of a country. Luffy wants to be king of the pirates, of the whole goddamn ocean. Like, Crocodile really can't compare, and the reason he has such a pathetic ambition is because he feels small compared to the ocean, and because he can't rely on other people. It's just him fighting for himself.
I think I didn't read as much into his comments as you guys did. Because, like, when he was saying... I took that as, you specifically, Luffy, when you go out into the ocean, you will realize that you are nothing compared to me. That you are so small. Not that... I didn't take it as, like, the general you, right?
Really quick, I don't think I read as much into this as you guys. Could just be your tagline for the whole,
For
the
everything.
whole thing. We are very big on analyzing, and I think that when you are creating a project with the scope that One Piece has, every word you choose, every frame, every color, it all is important. It all means something, because you can't waste time on things that don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I would just add on top of that, some animes have this kind of like right by the seat of your pants sort of feel, where, oh, we just defeated the giant lava monster that was the most powerful demon in the world. Oh no, aliens have shown up. Like, it does this like logical leap where the next thing is stronger, but you're also like, well, you didn't really set that up. There is something, or someone, or a group, or something. There's a plot device that's going to show up later that I'm pretty sure affects most of the early stuff in One Piece. Mm-hmm. And the reason why Catherine and I are reading so deep into this is because we've gotten to the part where we've started to be introduced to the biggest fish in the ocean, and we go, oh, is this big fish the reason why all of these other slightly smaller fish have been, like, psychologically scarred? Are they so scared of this thing that they now, like, lash out?
Yeah, I figured, like, once you have enough foreknowledge, a lot of things make more sense in context, right? Mm-hmm. So I just assumed that was part of it, which is part of the interesting dynamic of our podcast.
Absolutely.
Going back to what you were talking about on trusting people, it is interesting the juxtaposition between how Crocodile operates and how Luffy's crew operates. Because we've talked about in past episodes, Luffy's crew is all dependent on, I just assume the other guy somewhere else is doing what he's supposed to be doing, right? Or doing his best. And, like, that's the only way they get stuff done, right? Like, that's how they defeated all the Baroque Works members and got to their goal.
Whereas Crocodile has contingency plans for contingency plans, because I can't trust that Mr. 5 is going to do his job. I need to make sure Mr. 4 is doing something else over here.
Yeah, so I guess you could also say it's like well-planned versus kind of like a chaotic improvisation.
Right. Well, and I feel like if Crocodile and Robin had been working together, if they hadn't had this trust issue that ultimately led to him attacking her, I think Luffy would have had a much harder time trying to fight both of them.
Oh, yeah. Like, if they had been on the same side, like, we saw, like, Robin is OP, with the exception of when she was fighting Crocodile, because Crocodile could kind of, like, overcome her powers. But fighting... I would say Robin fighting basically anybody on the Straw Hat crew would win.
All right, hang on. Are you saying that Crocodile's Devil Fruit power is the natural weakness of Robin's power, in a sense, because he could neutralize what she could do? Are you saying that sand is how you take down a flower? Are you saying that the desert might not be hospitable to the... It's symbolism, guys!
Oh, goodness.
Okay. And now it's time for our ad segment. Hello, folks. Today, we're going to bring you a brand new revolutionary product. Now, listen. You've read books, I assume. You probably went in school, maybe you read in your free time. There's audiobooks for those people who are too busy to read, and they can instead have the words, told to them. There's even these crazy moving book pictures, we call them movies these days, but those were books at some point, I assume. But what we really need to do to take it to the next level, even beyond ebooks, even beyond audiobooks, we need smell books. This is the brand new technology that is going to enable you to love reading even more with all of your senses. Now, sometimes people say, oh, I love the smell of a physical book. That's why some people prefer books to ebooks, for example. But what if the books change to reflect the themes and motivations of the characters? Maybe you have a story where there's a high-class lady and then a barbarian, and every chapter flips back and forth between them. The barbarian chapters could smell like meat. Luffy would love that book. And then the books with the high priestess or whatever could smell like flowers. Curtis, you were offered a trial book, the first chapter of something with this system. So what have you checked out and been reading?
Yeah, I've been enjoying a lovely book about some folks just kind of spending a vacation on the seaside. So you get the salt air.
Okay.
You get some fish.
How's that low tide smell, though?
I kind of skipped that chapter.
But it helps with the immersion.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you need characters to struggle so that their victory can feel all the better and such like that.
Mm-hmm. There's another one I tried with this epic battle scene, and what I did is I put headphones on that had people screaming at the top of their lungs like war cries and like, oh god, my leg.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then like it just smelled of like blood and sweat
and cannon fire. Yeah,
it was like very immersive. I couldn't sleep that night.
I actually one time had Catherine try to assassinate me while I was reading a book about assassins. That's just how it works.
The more in depth, the better.
The more in depth the knife.
I didn't know we were telling people about how you got that scar.
All right, and Catherine, what did you use your free token on?
Well, actually, it's interesting because I'm not really sure what this book is about. I'm mostly just getting the smells, and I think it's about someone in the forest. There's campfires, there's pine needles. It could be about Bigfoot, now that I think about it.
Okay, interesting. So it's more of like a mystery where they use one of your senses to enhance the experience for your others. The reading isn't very clear, but you can fill in the gaps with your nose.
You know what I've heard they're coming up with next?
Okay.
Books you can taste.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you can lick it and taste the salt from the ocean. You could lick it and you could taste the bark. You got to be careful checking these out from the library, though.
Sure.
And so they get a little slobbery.
Well, and the back has the summary, so you lick it and you get kind of a flavor profile of the story as a whole.
Yeah, it's really great for books that have ups and downs, because you get the spice, yeah, you get the sour,
and the edamame.
Yes, and the edamame.
Is there some sort of subscription service where we can get these books? Like, there's Audible for audiobooks.
I think that they're working on it, but right now, you just kind of have to know a guy. You have to kind of bump into him on the street and be like, you got them smelly books?
I guess you could say you'll have to follow your nose.
His name is Phil.
It's just the one guy, but don't worry, he gets around. So even if you're in, Hong Kong or London or Denver or Sydney, Australia, this guy, you will find him. If you want the smell books, he'll find you.
Smelly books are a different product, and you can find them in your dumpster.
Also, the book that I've been checking out, I think that I use my token the best because it's a cookbook, and so I just smell what my stomach is feeling, and that's what I choose to cook that night.
Oh, now I'm hungry.
All right, this has been your ad segment. Back to the regularly scheduled episode. So I think that we've gotten a lot of the Crocodile stuff out of the way. You were talking about his contingency plans, and I just gotta really quickly highlight those explicitly. He has a hook for a hand that also, when he uncovers it, has a poison hook with really dangerous scorpion poison. And then when that breaks, he also just had a knife that comes out as like a backup.
Not to bring too many memes into the episode, but Crocodile, what do you have? A knife! No!
Yes.
But yeah, he really does have backups for backups, and it's crazy.
Well, but then he had the cannon that was going to fire the bomb, and then the bomb's going to go off, and it won't kill everyone, not as much, but it will still do enough damage, and you're like, dang, Crocodile. And I just want to point out, Luffy's crew and Vivi and Pell, they did a combo attack to stop the cannon from being fired. They used teamwork, which should have succeeded, but then the bomb was still going to go off. Even despite their best efforts, it required Pell. And I just want to take a moment to highlight Pell. As I think I pointed this out when Igaram, quote-unquote, died, because we saw him in a brief thing a couple of episodes ago. So he's doing something.
What is he doing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, so when we saw Igaram's death, I pointed out that was the first death in present time that we've had confirmed. Luffy doesn't kill his opponent. Zoro, even though he uses swords, apparently doesn't kill the people that he faces. And now we've had a second death. And Igaram was a cool character. It was obvious that he loved Vivi in his own way and that he was protecting his country. But Pell's sacrifice was so much more meaningful to me because he knew he was making a sacrifice, first off. But also, there was the scene where he's talking to Vivi, and Vivi is very distraught. She's very worked up. And she's like, Pell, wait, the bomb's gonna go off, and you just, what are you doing here? And Pell's just very calmly like, yeah, you've been a pretty good princess. I've loved serving you these past however many years.
Do you remember what you were like as a child?
Do you remember what you were like as a child? And that gets to me because it speaks to their characters, it speaks to their mindsets, it speaks to what they're doing at the moment. Vivi is distraught because she knows the danger of the bomb, and she's freaking out because she knows that Pell will die because of how close he is to the bomb. Pell's calm because he's reserved himself. He's decided that this is what he's going to do to protect the country.
Oh, you're going to make me tear up on Mike. Don't do that.
And then also it goes back to what Cobra did. Cobra set the temple to not explode, but crumble, so that it would, trap Crocodile, and he wanted to sacrifice himself to protect the country because, even if it costs me my life, it'll take out my enemy. You know what, though? He failed where Luffy succeeded. He wasn't going to be able to kill Crocodile. Luffy was able to do Crocodile because he decided that he was going to live. People who choose to die in this show on purpose, unless they're trying to get someone else to take up their torch in their steed, their mantle, they fail kind of horribly in a sad sort of way. But people who keep fighting and have the courage to be like, no, I'm going to stick through the hard times, they're the real winners.
Get up, Spider-Man.
Reference joke.
There was a great moment in that Pale flashback where he is disciplining Vivi. She did something dumb, and he slaps her in the face. And Igaram and Cobra burst out of the bushes. And that was a great callback to their habit of hiding in bushes. And I think it really speaks to the difference between Pel's love for Vivi and Igaram's love for Vivi. Because Igaram saw Pell slap her and he went, "You can't hurt the princess, what are you doing?" And Cobra said, "No, wait, he's teaching her something, this is important." Mm-hmm. And so Pell was willing to hurt Vivi if long term it kept her safe. And him sacrificing himself and him dying, that's probably the greatest way he could have hurt her in general. Mm-hmm. And he still did it because it meant that she would live.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything to add, Curtis?
No.
Okay.
It was a very good scene. It was very touching.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really quick want to note, both of the emotional deaths in this series so far have been centered around Vivi. Igaram and Pell were both dying for her.
Didn't we have a confirmation that Igaram is alive?
Yes, we
did.
Yeah,
but when we thought he was dead, it was emotional. We cried.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy, because we were talking about it as the second confirmed death, and I was like, It's
annoying to me that he was confirmed to be alive so soon, because, like Joel kind of said, what has he been doing this whole time? Shouldn't he be helping somehow? Is he waiting for the most opportune moment to reveal that he's actually alive? Maybe he needed a snack, I don't know.
Well, and I've made the comment that kind of one of the things that I would change about this series if I had a magic wand is the representation of women, and you can go back and listen to previous episodes. I think I've made my point kind of clear. But the other thing that I would say is that it is a little bit too, everyone survives in the end. I mean, spoilers, not really, but, like, we saw Robin get stabbed through the heart, like, literally just, inches below her neck, and she's around for several more episodes, and they don't make, like, we gave her emergency operation. It's like she took a nap and seemed to have gotten better.
Right, and, like, we're not necessarily looking for some Game of Thrones level stuff. We don't need violence for violence sake, but in a world where people with these powers are fighting at the level they are, people are going to get hurt. That should be a natural consequence of the world, I think.
Well, and especially since Igaram's death was played as an emotional, like, oh, now things are getting serious. Are they getting serious? Because it turns out they're just faking their deaths.
One of my favorite authors has a line, or has said, I guess, be careful with, this character is dead. No, just kidding, they're alive. Because if you do that too many times, your audience won't trust you anymore. But he does it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really funny that he would be the one to say that. And it's interesting that you bring up that there's not a lot of suspense around people's deaths in One Piece. We know for the most part that they're not really dead. Because this arc specifically was set up specifically to mislead the viewer in so many ways. The biggest example from this last 5 episodes that we just finished is the clock tower. So as we're watching the Straw Hats struggle to figure out where the bomb is, every so often they'll flash to the clock tower and we'll see it ticking. And we'll go, okay, they are showing us how much time is left. They were showing us where the bomb was the whole time. Curtis figured that out right before the official reveal, and Joel and I were so excited because...
Were you proud of me?
I was!
You were.
I was! You did such a good job analyzing what was happening. I was really proud of you.
Yay.
Another example of the viewer being misled was they kept saying, we have to find the cannoneer. We have to stop the cannoneer from firing the bomb. Nope, just kidding. It's on a timer device. The bomb's going to explode anyway. Or Crocodile's hook. Who was expecting that he would have a second hook under his first hook? Anybody? No.
Yeah.
And it was full of poison for some reason?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Crocodile. Robin's relationship with Crocodile and how she feels about the poneglyph, that was also set up to mislead the viewer, because this whole time, we're like, okay, she's working for him, she's helping him do this. I'm pretty sure she had her own reasons for wanting to read that poneglyph. She was very excited about it. And just overall, the way things are set up to lead you down one path of thought, and then it turns out to be something else, but it's something else that's completely logical and fits with the setup, is just amazing.
The only thing in One Piece that we can trust is Zoro's sense of misdirection.
Yes!
And that is...
That is the only constant.
He ended up in a jungle somehow, in the desert, and then, when he realized he was lost, he didn't say, oh, I got lost. He said, why's that stupid castle gotta be so far away? He's so dumb.
Oh man, we love our boy, Zoro.
Did you guys have any other thoughts on the misdirection of One Piece? I was trying to think back on whether this was a Alabasta specific thing because of who Crocodile is.
No, I really can't think of anywhere else where there has been misdirection before. I mean, there's things like Gene on the Baratier. He was like, please give me food. And there was like some ambiguity as to whether or not he would tell his commander or not, whether he was actually a good person who needed food or not. But that ended up being it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, Sanji will do it anyways. Nami sort of misled people into thinking that she wasn't on the fish, or she lied about her connections with Arlong, and then it turned out she wasn't really a member of them. She was kind of being held hostage.
Yeah, I think, there are a couple minor examples, but this one was, a degree higher, at least, than everything else. Though I wouldn't be surprised if it's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I would say that could be a sign that things are getting more complicated. We're now facing, instead of an enemy who wants to take a ship, or an enemy who wants to fight off invaders in their country, like Wapol, for example, we now have a criminal organization led by a guy who wants to find the only woman who can read a text that is going to tell him where the thing is so he can get the ship so that he can rule his own country. Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yes, Crocodile is just a complex character with complex plans. This isn't exactly an example of the viewer being misled, but Crocodile keeps saying, there's no way you're going to succeed. People are going to die no matter what you do. You can't beat me. And we might be sitting here thinking oh, he's just kind of a cocky bastard. But no, every time the Straw Hats think that they've won, there's something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just excellent escalation of stakes. I really enjoyed watching them be like, okay, so his plan is to do this, so we're gonna take step A. Okay, that wasn't his plan. Now we gotta take step B, and just kind of zigzag their way to victory.
Yeah. Now that Alabasta is starting to wind down, I mean, we've gotten to the climax for the most part. There's still more episodes, but next week's episode will be the denouement, I think is the term for it, for Alabasta, and then there's one post-Alabasta arc, which is 5 episodes long. So, Curtis, why don't you bring us home with your thoughts on the saga in general, and if you have any thoughts for what the next big thing will be.
So I think, one, this is definitely the best saga.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the best arc that we've had so far. I like the Alabasta arc specifically more than any of the other arcs in the saga.
Okay.
The villain was a little more complicated. The plot was more complex, so it made it more interesting.
A lot of level up moments. The Straw Hats really had to say, okay, we are currently performing at this rank, and we need to fight even harder if we're going to win.
Yeah, and the just the ending with the final fight between Luffy and Crocodile was above what we've seen so far, and it was very good.
Yes, I agree.
In terms of where we're going next, I don't know. I'm curious because we've been so far we've been so focused on like helping Vivi that it's like, oh, that's right, we were on like a voyage just going through the Grand Line before,
the One
right?
Piece, yeah.
It's like we ran into Vivi right away, and that's kind of like, so now they're just like, what do we do now? Do we just like wander? Okay. Go to the next place? Oh, that's right, we have this little crystal thing on the ship that's supposed to tell us where to go.
Yes, absolutely. So if you could do a fanfic moment, what kind of weird thing do you want to see? Do you want to see the Straw Hats involved in some kind of game show situation where if you get the question wrong, you lose a crew member or something? Do you want like a secret spy infiltration mission? Do you want they have to build a robot to compete with other robots?
Giant fighting ship robots.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I want.
You might have to wait a little while. That's not the next saga. It's a few more away. But that has been your final thought.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Outro goes here. In this episode, I award the Straw Hat Pirates the Jackass Badge. Kick him in the balls.
So ends the next leg of the King of the What Now adventure. We're sad to see you go, but we'll be here next week. If you crave some social interaction with us in the meantime, you can find us on all sorts of different media. We have Gmail, Patreon, and Tumblr. All of those are King of the What Pod. King of the What Pod at gmail.com, patreon.com/King of the What Pod, kingofthewhatpod.tumblr.com. Our Twitter handlers are a little bit different. You can reach me at KOTWN_pod.
And you can contact me, Curtis, at Pirate Co-Host. Also, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen. Not only will this help others find the podcast, but your constructive feedback will help us improve the show as we go.
Thanks so much for giving us a listen. Until next time, follow your dreams and protect your treasure.
Remember, it doesn't need to be literal treasure.